Okay, so I cannot give you the region band music until Thursday of next week, I believe is the date. In the meantime, we can cover what's going to be one of the toughest parts of the snare drum etude, and that is the rhythms and the time signature. Okay, so you should be looking at your Braswell Zone Percussion 2023 middle school region band snare rhythms. You'll see that almost every line on that first page is in 3/8. This entire first page, lines A through I, are just for counting. Okay, your sheet should say count each line at 60, 70, and 80. So we're going to start at 60. Now, 3/8 is a different kind of time signature. We're not going to count this 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, I know it says there's 3 on top, so that must mean there's 3 beats in a measure, but it's actually only 1 beat per measure. Okay, that 8 on the bottom makes it compound time, which means 3/8 notes now equal 1 beat, and we count them 1, la, and li. So really, it's just 1 big beat per measure. If you look at the second half of line A, you see each measure just has a dotted quarter note. A dotted quarter note is equal to 3/8 notes. So those dotted quarter notes take up all 3 parts of that measure, 1, la, and li, so they get the entire measure to themselves. Okay. So with the metronome, we're going to start really slow at 60. Think 1 la li, 1 la li, 1 la li, 1 la li. So divide that beat into 3 parts and think like triplets. 1 lolly, 1 lolly, 1 lolly, 1 lolly, 1, 1, 1, 1. And even there at the end, when we got to the dotted quarter notes and it's just 1 note per measure, I'm still thinking 1. Still think all 3 parts of each beat, each measure. Okay. So starting with A, well, we just kind of counted through A, so let's go on to B. So in B, on the second half, the li is missing, so we get 1 la li, 1 la li, 1 la li, 1 la li, 1 la, 1 la, 1 la, 1 la. So you just leave a gap where li would be. 1 la li, 1 la li. So just leave that 1/8 note out. Next one, same 3 rhythms, just mixed up a little bit. So letter C is 1 la, 2 la li, 1 la, 2 la li, 1, 1, 1 la li, 1. I think I said some 2s in there, but those should all be 1s. If you say the wrong number, if you actually say 1, 2, I don't actually care. Okay, they should all be 1s. Letter D, okay, at letter D we have a quarter note. Okay, so if you think about what a quarter note is, it's twice the length of an eighth note. So your quarter note is going to get 1 and la. Okay, in letter D, that third measure, that quarter note gets 1 and la, which means now la is basically missing from the rhythm. So this is kind of the opposite of the rhythm we did in letter C, where the li was missing. Now the la is missing. So here's letter D, and 1 la li, 1 la li, 1, li 1, li 1 la li, 1, li 1 la li, 1, li. So that quarter note, eighth note is like a swing rhythm. Okay, 1, li 1, li 1. Letter E, if you look in the third measure, has that same rhythm reversed, where the eighth note is going to come first. So now the eighth note is on 1, the quarter note is on la, but it also gets li. So the second measure of E is identical to the second measure of C. Those are both the same rhythm. They're both 1 la, 1 la. They're just written differently. So here's letter E, and 1 la li, 1 la li, 1 la, 1 la, 1 la li, 1 la, 1 la li, 1 la. Okay, letter F. Now you're going to get those 2 back to back. You have to look real careful. Where is the quarter note? Where is the long note? We have 1 li with the quarter note up front, and then we have 1 la where the eighth note goes first, and we go back and forth between those. This one you're going to want to practice a lot. And 1 li, 1 li, 1 la, 1 la, 1 li, 1 la, 1 li, 1 la. All right. Letter G, same thing. They're just moving around in a different pattern. Okay, so it's the same 2 rhythms. You got to read carefully. What does it start with? What does it end with? Letter G, and 1 la, 1 li, 1 la, 1 li, 1 la, 1 li, 1 la, 1 li. Okay, so that's the same 2 measures 4 times. All right. Letter H. All right. When we have 16th notes in 3/8 time, we don't call the in-between notes te, we call them ta. So in measure 2 of letter H, you have 1 la li. We know that 16th notes go twice as fast as 8th notes. So for every 8th note, there will now be 2 16th notes. If you look at the first 16th notes, that's 1, just like the first 8th note, and then there's a ta. The next 16th note is la, just like the second 8th note, and then there's a ta, and then there's my li, and then there's my ta. Wanta lata lita. Okay, practice saying that. Wanta lata lita. So 1 la li, 1 la li, wanta lata lita. It's just twice as fast. We put a ta in between every one of those. Practice this one slowly without a metronome. It's kind of a tongue twister. And 1 la li, 1 la li, wanta lata lita, 1 la li, 1 la li, wanta lata lita, wanta lata lita, 1 la li. Okay, last one on the page, letter I. We now go to 2/4. The second half of the snare drum etude is in 2/4. So same beat. Here's still our downbeat. 1, 1, 1, 1. Now we're going to have 2 beats in a measure, and instead of thinking 1 la li, 1, we're back to thinking 8th notes. 1 te, 2 te, 1 te, 2 te. Okay, so just count that first measure of I a couple times. 1 te, 2 te, 1 te, 2 te. Now, within those 8th notes, we're going to have some 16th note triplets. So I'm going to replace one of the 8th notes with a 16th note triplet. 1 te, 2 te, 1 ali te, 2 te. Notice that 1 te, 2, and te were all still in the same place. Your neighbor could count the first measure while you count the second measure, and those two things should line up. You should be saying 1 te, 2 te together if you do it right. Okay? So letter I, 1 te, 2 te, 1 ali te, 2 te, 1 te, 2 te, 1 ali te, 2 te, 1 ali te, 2 lali te, 1 lali te, 2 lali te.